Hello, everybody. This is Kevin Daly for PATH. Stand by for answers. Special Education Today, June 30th, 2025. In this edition of Answers, there will be a roundup of the latest news about special education, this time with a focus on the efforts to close the U.S. Department of Education and how special education students will be affected. Plus, the latest installment of the ongoing series, Special Education's Greatest Hits. It will describe 3 ways parents can prepare for the upcoming school year. As always, there will be time at the end for Q&A, so please get ready to use chat to submit your questions. This webinar is brought to you by PATH, a nonprofit organization that for more than 35 years has supported Connecticut families. If you have any questions about this webinar, please send me an email, kdaly@pathct.org. And while you're online, check out our website and visit us on Facebook, X, and the YouTube channel for PATH, which is PathCT. This webinar is not to be considered legal advice or healthcare advice or advice of any kind. It's really just the property of PATH and not to be used for any other purpose without the permission of PATH, although we encourage you to share the links to our YouTube videos. And here's the special education update. As you may recall, in March, there was an executive order that caused massive layoffs at the U.S. Department of Education. About half of the department's employees were terminated, and entire agencies within the department were eliminated, including agencies that existed to enforce special education regulations and provide oversight of special education programs. The long-term plan is to eventually shut down the department and transfer its remaining functions to other agencies. In response, in April, a lawsuit was filed by these 20 states challenging the executive order. Connecticut is one of the states. A similar lawsuit was filed by the District of Columbia, along with some school districts and teacher unions. In May, a federal judge issued an injunction to stop the executive order. The judge also ordered the department to reinstate all the employees who were terminated. The decision was appealed almost immediately. The U.S. Supreme Court will decide on the matter, although the Supremes are on break until October, so don't expect a decision anytime soon. One department agency that was impacted by the March layoffs is the Office for Civil Rights, also known as OCR. OCR enforces the laws that protect the civil rights of students. About 40% of the OCR employees were terminated in March, and 7 of the 12 regional OCR offices across the country were shut down. Now, over the years, I've known parents special education students who filed a complaint with OCR. The process is relatively simple. You file a complaint with OCR. If OCR investigates and determines civil rights were violated, it orders corrective action. Well, it sounds simple, but it's actually a bit more complicated than that. In January, OCR had more than 12,000 open investigations. The March layoffs effectively froze those investigations. That, plus an order from the U.S. Secretary of Education directing OCR attorneys to stop investigating complaints from students and families. Last week, a federal judge ordered OCR to reinstate the laid-off employees. The order came from a lawsuit that was filed by parents in Michigan and Nebraska, along with the Victim Rights Law Center, which is a nonprofit organization. Well, you can be sure this decision will be appealed to before the U.S. Supreme Court. The prospect of eliminating the U.S. Department of Education has polarized the nation. EdChoice, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, conducted a nationwide survey during the spring asking for reaction to closing the Department of Education. About half those who responded opposed closing the department. Only 36 of the respondents support the policy. Meanwhile, here in Connecticut, there is disagreement with the policy as well. A recent poll by NPR, PBS, and Marist found that 63% of Connecticut residents who responded were strongly opposed to getting rid of the department. The Connecticut Mirror reported in March that the majority of Connecticut's elected state and federal officials have also come out against it. And in the same month, the Connecticut Insider reported that Connecticut's two major teacher unions are voicing strong opinion too. And there are critics who say the negative impact of closing the department will hit the civil rights of special education students and hit them pretty hard. For example, in his blog for the American Civil Liberties Union, strategist Ricardo Mimbella recently pointed out that no other federal agency has the expertise needed to oversee special education and ensure the civil rights of special education students. Without the department to enforce IDEA, special education students are at risk of losing the protections they are legally entitled to receive. He goes on to say that without the department, school districts won't be held accountable for special education. The National Disability Rights Network reports that eliminating the department will cause students with disabilities to experience more school removals, more restraints and seclusions, and more referrals to law enforcement. Now, you have to admit that that's a pretty grim picture. And why it seems like closing the Department of Education is opposed by a majority of Connecticut residents, it's important to remember that the numbers show that 1 out of 3 state residents support closing the department. That's a significant number. Many supporters believe closing the department will eliminate the wasteful practices that have been around for years and allow schools to refocus on student learning. One supporter is Jim Blue. He served as an assistant U.S. Secretary of Education in a previous administration. In an opinion week in Education Week this week, Mr. Blue made the case that closing the department would be a welcome step. It would move control of education back to states and local communities. And educators might not even notice the difference if the department goes away. According to Mr. Blue, even if the department closes, money for public education, and that includes special education, will continue to flow to school districts. It just won't come from the Department of Education. It will come from state and local taxes. He also points out that federal funding is not a major funder of public education. And the numbers support that, although it differs from state to state. For example, in Connecticut and 3 other Northeast states, federal funding for public schools historically comes to less than 10% of the overall state budget for schools. In comparison, in 2022, schools in these 6 states got more than 20% of their funding from the federal government. Mr. Blue also made the point that eliminating the department will eliminate federal mandates and rules that cause local schools to waste money, allowing educators to refocus on the students. So many different opinions, so many different ways to go. It's like what Bob Dylan sang about in the 1970s. People disagreeing on just about everything. Yeah, makes you stop and all wonder why. Again, back in Connecticut, this year's legislative session produced some big wins for special education students, including a $30 million grant to school districts for special education expansion and development, and a fully funded $40 million excess cost grant to school districts that goes to cover the cost of educating students with disabilities. These developments on the state level are significant, and they deserve a webinar of their own. And that will happen in the next summer edition of Answers on August 5th. So be sure to tune in. Now, on to special education's greatest hits. Practices that parents can use to become more effective advocates for their special education students. Today's tip: parents, do your homework this summer. Here are your assignments. Now, don't worry, there is only 3. First, organize your child's school records. I mean, IEPs, evaluations, progress reports, report cards. Keep them in one place so that you can refer to them when you need to. If you have paper records, consider putting them in a 3-ring loose leaf binder. If you have computer documents, use the same approach. Keep them in one place. Keep all the documents in the same folder or drive. If you don't have all your child's school records, you could get a free copy just by asking. An email to the school principal should be all that it takes. The regulations state that if a parent requests school records in writing, an email is considered writing. The records must be provided within 10 school days. And remember, you can get only one free copy. Schools can charge a per-page fee for future copies. Requesting school records during the summer break can be a problem. Do you remember that 10-day waiting period I mentioned? Summer break days are not considered school days. The 10-day rule does not apply. During the summer, schools have up to 45 school days to produce school records, about 8-9 weeks. However, it might take less time in your own school. You know, if you need the records, you have nothing to lose by asking for them right away. And of course, when you organize the school records, be sure to read them. That's important. Okay, next assignment. Take a vow to learn how to use CT SEDS, the Connecticut Special Education Data System. It's designed to be an easy way to get your child's school records. It was first introduced in 2022. Parents can use CT SEDS to access and download their child's school records. It's notorious for its bugs and flaws. Parents and school people constantly complain about learning to use it, but CT SEDS is an important resource, and it's not going to go away. Learn how to use it. Your school district should have supplied all the information that you need to get on. It's important to start using it and get used to it. Third, and this tip is not for everybody, if your child is overly anxious about starting school, consider visiting the school before opening day. Now, most every child has anxiety about opening day, but for some students, the fear of the unknown can take over their lives and take over their parents' lives too. A visit to school before opening day can make a big difference. If this tip sounds right for your child, reach out to the school principal. Explain the situation. Ask to arrange a short visit to the school. The teachers and staff start school weeks before the students do. It's possible you may be able to meet your child's new teacher during the visit or not. School people usually spend their time before opening day going to professional development and preparing their classrooms. But there's a benefit to just seeing the school building and walking the halls. School people are aware of this and they can be quite accommodating. Be sure to join us for the next edition of Answers on August 5th. Okay, now it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, please submit it to the chat. And I do not see any questions popping up. As a teacher of mine used to say, folks, we may be in danger of getting out early today. And yes, we are. Thank you for watching Answers, and I hope you can join us on August 5th. I just saw something pop up. In case it's in case it's significant, I'd like to answer. So let's see what we have here. There is a question. Okay. And Ellen, you are very welcome. Thank you, Ellen. All right, folks. See you on August 5th as the journey continues.